And we are live in umbraCoffee episode 189. And we're joined today by the CEO of Umbraco himself, Kim. Hello, Kim. How are you today? How's your day?
I'm very well, thank you. And I appreciate that that you are allowing me on umbraCoffee. That's highly wanted and highly appreciated. Thank you for that.
We invited you, and it's always a nervous thing, like trying to invite people from HQ, especially people like yourself that are very busy trying to get your time. And it's always great. I think the last time we had you on was maybe in the German festival 2019.
Yes.
And it was your first umbraCoffee ever, I believe. And yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, we have a couple interesting topics to discuss today, of course. It was one of these weeks where we had a lot of content to scan through and a lot of content to discuss about. So let's start from releases. Runa shared a product update today, yesterday. So there is a lot of releases lined up and a lot of things going on in the RCs field, starting from new RC for Umbraco 9 and release date announced. So it's somewhere here.
September 28th is the target now. I know previously the roadmap said August, but I think it's good that this is maybe, if it's not quite ready, that it's still being pushed. And we've got another RC, and Runa mentions as well there may be another RC coming in that time too. So that's great. And this latest RC is basically in line with Umbraco 8.16, and when the main V9 launches, it will be in line with 8.17. So yeah, I think it's the best compromise, best of both worlds. It means on V9 we're going to have tabs for all those people that still care about that. There's. Yeah.
I've learned about financial years, to be honest, because I saw a whole confusion where the Q3 stars were everywhere on the world. So that was interesting to learn also about this aspect. But yeah, probably no one blames the date push if it will have more features and more tailored and polished code base. And there is a lot of other updates shared across this product update. You've mentioned Umbraco 8.16. But also there are some tabs updates on the roadmap publicly shared, and some other topics discussed here, which we will, of course, mention later on. 8.15.2 was released as well. So some bug fixes mainly.
I think everyone can just upgrading from 8.14. So if I think it relates to the media picker stuff.
Yep.
Oh no, it's inviting users.
And same with 8.14, some bug fixes for nested content and some props fixes to that. That's from the product release. Let me just change the window and see what's next on the agenda.
Forms. There was a couple other product updates.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this Forms one. I know that for years people have said Forms needs a bit of love, and it is finally getting that with Andy on board and taking ownership. But of course, Umbraco Forms 8.8 came out this week, along with the deploy update that I think is tied in as well. And this brings folders to Forms. So for people that have got hundreds of forms, this is really, really handy to be able to group your forms into different folders in the back office. This is a really nice bit of polish that's been needed for a long time, I think.
Yeah, and same with the deploy. I saw a lot of appreciation going to Andy for the recent updates. Pretty good changes, small usability updates, which are making a big difference. So yeah, it's good to see that products still receives a constant dose of updates, and yeah, I can't wait to update to the recent forms as well. So this is from Umbraco, but some products and releases were also upgraded this week. We can start from vendor release candidate point for 2. Big update. Callum, you probably know more about it, so you can.
Yeah, so this is the multi-targeted vendor release. Works on both 8 and 9. So if you want to start a project now, it doesn't matter if you're going to choose V8 or V9. Vendor 2 is kind of going to be the default choice. Marginal changes from V1, no new features, just API breaking code changes. So potentially, if you're starting a new vendor project right now, this would be the logical thing to choose.
So yeah, pretty big. And as every release candidate, all of us and all of the users and beneficial parties needs to test it out and ensure that before the proper release, it will have fixed most of the issues. So yeah, test it out and share feedback with the vendor team. Examinex, beta version after some tests, various changes, and hopefully a lot of feedback coming back to Shannon, is released now, and it's supporting Umbraco v9 on .NET 5. So big update. We've mentioned it, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that it had a lot of performance fixes, a lot of fixes related with the benefits coming from the new Azure search behind the scenes and a lot of other stuff. So yeah, all of the users of Examinex will definitely like this release and can use the beta version now. Another big release is RC for using v9. And it's RC number 2, coming from Kevin Jump and the team there. And yeah, for v9, there, I know that it was already working, and a lot of teams already benefits from using on v9. But there is a bunch of changes and upgrades released in this version. So yeah, getting there. I don't know, Callum, if you've been using for v9 already or not.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, it's really, and Kevin is doing a great work here to make it ready for the fully featured and production version of Umbraco v9. And last 2 updates come from the package creators this week. First, which I completely missed, to be honest, because I thought it was about new marketing suite, as in the most tweets from Jeffrey, but it was a silent release of a very cool package called Perplex Content Blocks, which we highlighted many times in the past. It was a replacement or enhancement of the grid for the previous Umbraco versions, and now
it was like the OG block editor. And it was one of the things that inspired when we were at the retreat, actually, the concepts that exist now in the block editor.
I still remember this retreat and our faces when we saw it for the first time. So now the version on NuGet is ready for v9. So yet another package, really extremely useful, is ready for being used and ported to Umbraco v9. And it's on NuGet. Everyone can download it. It already has. It doesn't have any downloads.
It's a lie. NuGet doesn't refresh. It will have some.
Yeah, it will have. And two more on our list. Search spell check package, which is based on Lucene.NET spell checker, new version helping in the spell checking across the indexes in search.
This package actually is based on a blog post Lars Erik did maybe 5 years ago now about doing spell check search with Lucene in .NET, and it's great to see that people are still finding resources like that really valuable in 5 years later. So great work, Lars, and also Rick for pulling this package together.
And proper kudos here in the project README for Lars Erik. And the Oski Starter Kit, a new starter kit for V8 version of Umbraco with a demo site here. A lot of useful components here as well. And I can't count right now, but there's 4th or 5th starter kit for V8.
There's a few.
I would say.
This is an interesting one. They've based this off their company site. They've kind of spun that out as a starter kit, which is cool. Because I'm sure there's other companies that would need a lot of the things that they've built, and it looks really nice. So, congratulations.
Yep. So that's from the releases side, and there was one new release and one new blog post coming from Umbraco HQ this week. And Kim, probably to this release you can more relate to. Of course, it was announcements about the new major investor joining the Umbraco family, and Umbraco family joining the new major investor. Can you tell us more about it from your perspective, and how it's all looking and going on your end?
Yes, thank you. It's been an intense, dynamic period in my Umbraco life this year. The process started already late last year on this, and as I've tried to explain both to staff who were told Monday, in the announcement blog and mails gone out to partners, Umbraco users worldwide, and MVPs, that the world around us is changing. Things have changed quite dramatically since the foundation of Umbraco many years ago, and as the main purpose of us is staying relevant. I know it's a broad term, but we want to remain relevant, and we cannot ignore the outside world. Content is not enough anymore. I mean, I touched upon some of these things at the keynote. I've touched upon it previously in other conditions and other events. But the world around us is changing, demands growing, higher complexity, and at the same time a higher demand for simplicity. And we see major players building with having far more bandwidth than Umbraco has. Was it yesterday that Contentful announced that they have raised $175 million in round 4, 5, or 6 on a $3 billion valuation. I mean, that's serious players, that's big players, and they have more money than we will ever have and get. So in order to stay the same, we need to change the way, and that is the reasoning behind us making this decision. Timing-wise, and why now? That's because we are actually in a good position. I mean, we have a super strong product, new initiatives product-wise that you all know of, Unicore, as you spoke about. We have now the bandwidth to give love to forms, as another example. So we have actually a very good, strong product. We have a very strong, live, vibrant community, who is the foundation upon which we rely, and we have over the years built a strong company. So we are actually in a super good position. So there is something to build on, something to build from. Could we have waited a couple of years? Most likely, that could have been okay. But we are currently in a strong position. So that's and timing is everything in a situation like this. So that's the why and why now on this. It has been very important to find the right investor, not just getting anybody on board with a bucket full of money. Montero comes and have been operational in this domain. And many of them have been having leading posts in AP server. They're Swedes. AP was born in Sweden. 2 former CEOs of AP, former chairman of AP after the acquisition by Insight, the CTO, chief sales officer, and so on and so forth. So when we started this process, they knew Umbraco. They knew open source. They knew the domain. Unlike others we have spoken with, who CMS, what is that? Web development, digital experience, and so on and so forth. What is that? IT, open source. I mean, isn't that something for hippies, or isn't that just anarchy, and so on and so forth? So the quality and in the dialogue we have had with Montero, and I'm happy that it came to be in Montero, has just been on a second level compared to anybody else we have spoken with.
Yeah, because I remember discussions and mentions from Umbraco side that there were interested people and investors before, and again, it's not just like, okay, I'm choosing you because you've messaged me or you're okay. But here it sounded like, you know, from even the blog post and description of Montero, I visited their website, and it seems like they're investing only in the software products, right? They're investing only in the Nordic companies. And obviously this experience with Episerver sounds like a really perfect fit here, because who knows the domain better than someone who already fighted to sell a lot of licenses and products for the CMS systems, and now have a product which is similar but completely different at the same time, right?
Precisely. I mean, there's funds out there who purely work in IT industry. These people work only B2B, and then they have this domain knowledge. I mean, this is very rare scene that they have such, the acquiring fund has such a domain knowledge in this. So that's very good. We have over the years received numerous mails from numerous private equity funds or industry players wanting to talk with us about getting acquired, selling Umbraco, and so on and so forth. And we have waited because that hasn't been the right time for that, or it hasn't been the right people. But as I tried to explain before, this is the right time, and this is the right people. Back to my point of waiting a couple of years, I don't think we could find another PE with the same domain knowledge as the ones we have found now. And I can share that I also said this yesterday at MVP Connect, that we are still interesting. I received yesterday a mail from a private equity fund who stated that they, after extensive search in the CMS domain, had found us and would like to discuss an acquisition with us. Obviously, I sent the link to the post and said, very, very well done, my friend.
Good research. Yeah, referring to this post, of course, whoever missed it, it's on umbraco.com. The whole story in short, of course, with the description of Montero in general, and their vision, their mission, and I think it's important what we've also heard yesterday from you and from Per. It's like it's not like Montero is stepping in and trying to turn Umbraco into Episerver now, or doing anything like that. It's like Umbraco stays operational as it is, right? Nothing changes on your ends. And Montero's mission, of course, is also to evaluate higher and make Umbraco more valuable for the market, for everyone. And Carl or Soren asked here the really good question, because on the investors area, on the money field, is like Contentful is receiving a lot of money, for example. Is it are they really making money? That's also the question. And here Per yesterday mentioned that the revenue is important, and for the investors sometimes it's also the most important metric, not the profit at the general. And we can probably see it from the various projects here, Contentful probably included. It's like they're building faster, they're hiring a lot of teams, hiring a lot of developers, companies, acquiring other companies to help them deliver faster. So probably it's also opening a lot of opportunities for the further investments in Umbraco and products. And you said it yesterday that there are further investments in the plan.
Let's also not forget that, yes, unlike another great example, not CMS related, but of course this week Postman, which is a developer tool that we all use, got another investment round at a $5 billion valuation. It's a tool that people use on their computers to test APIs. It's an incredibly inflated valuation for a business that ultimately I don't think makes any or much money at all. And we had a chat internally about what makes a company a startup versus a company. So when you're investing, and I said a startup is when you're still relying on investor money to survive. Take Uber as an example, where they're burning through venture capital money. if you look at Umbraco over the past 5 years, the focus has been on building this stable HQ. And of course, in that time, I think the HQ's received some criticism maybe for, you've brought on salespeople. It's for the people that have been around the HQ, around Umbraco for a long, long time. This feels very like community focused, but at the same time, it's resulted in a stable HQ where you've got yourself to a point where you're appealing to an investor, where you can get their backing to actually grow, and it's ultimately going to impact and improve the core product, but also the other offerings that you've had. And whether you use those offerings or not, it doesn't really matter. It means HQ's here to live another day, here to build more great stuff for the core product as well.
There's I can document 730,000 websites going 26 months back in time from version 7.8, I think it is, that's running an installation. We all know that there's older installations out there than that. So let's, for argument's sake, say there's 1 million installations worldwide. Each and every one of those have been implemented by a developer.
Yep.
Each and every one of those, minimum one developer, each and every one of those have minimum a content editor working on it. So there's more than 1 million people, 1.5 million people making their living. I mean, on, if not fully, then partly on Umbraco software. That is something that we should be super proud of. All of us who have been engaged in expanding Umbraco, the software and the reach in broad terms. But there's so many people out there making a living on Umbraco, and it requires. Believe me, trust me when I say it requires funds to run a software company like ours. The demand for stability, the demand for new features, the demand for us moving towards .NET Core as we have done, the demand for future-proofing the back office, best of breed DXP, and so on and so forth. I mean, they're not becoming smaller, these demands, and we need to be able to generate some funds in order to hire people to do some of it, and in order to facilitate community activities around this. It comes with a price.
But just look at everything we were praising 5 minutes ago. New forms release, which Andy has been hired to work on forms this year. The .NET Core release, project, which is being actively worked on by much of the development team for a long time, and Bjarke was specifically hired for his .NET Core knowledge. So there's evidence of this investment, as in the investment back into the product and HQ, lasting way before just now. We're saying that this is actually an elevator for doing more of that, I guess.
If you look at our books, and you can find our open books at umbraco.com, you can see historically how we have increased revenue, but every cent, every money has been put back into this, and we haven't. I mean, we would not have been able to do this unless we have generated revenue. One of my favorite stories from the very first week after I started in Umbraco was that we had a telephone number and a telephone line, but in order to protect the ones working at Umbraco, no one the calls were sent to a call center outside of Umbraco, and if they ever sent a call back into Umbraco, they would be fired because there was a need for time to work on development. And I think it was day 2 or day 3 after I started, I put myself in front of this telephone line and picked up clearly not knowing anything about Umbraco or not much about web development. But I think the second call I got was from a Belgian agency who said, I would like to be Go partner. So, I mean, and I always use this towards Anders Trant, that I actually on day 2 sold a Gold partnership to a Belgian Gold partner, and why not? I mean, those I think it was 10,000 euros at that point in time. I mean, they went just back into the machine, and we have spent money on admittedly not only on developing the software, but actually the whole project. And we have seen, I mean, people know us. I mean, big American agencies, for instance, big outsourcing or consultancy companies making tons of money on Umbraco. And I think it's fair that they contribute with a support agreement or a partnership or paying for training, because that adds to the treasury and enable us to do more and better of what we do.
This is one of the things that Per Ivanson from Montero, who was part of this MVP call yesterday, spoke about. That coming from his background is actually technical with Episerver as CTO, but he said it's an interesting one as a fund. Your goal there is to kind of make some money, but for a product that very clearly it doesn't have a price tag attached to that product, unlike Episerver where you're selling licenses at whatever thousands of euros a pop. Umbraco doesn't have that price tag, but what it actually is that people are buying into is the ecosystem, the package. So you're buying into support or a really trusted cloud platform, or forms and the add-ons and the licenses or the training around it. So actually that's the product. Effectively the ecosystem's the product, and that's a difficult thing to sell to like a business. How do you sell more ecosystem, this concept? But I guess it's more about building it out and expanding it and getting these people who are using the product, a part of the ecosystem, to be financially playing in that as well.
Yeah.
But Kim, maybe after that we had some questions in the meantime about splitting Umbraco into let's say free community and paid enterprise, and you've mentioned it a couple times during this week as well. It's like Umbraco as a core is not going to change, and all the products which are sold and are public and paid offerings are benefiting directly from the Umbraco CMS as a product which is open source. Is it going to stay the same, or is there a plan for the free community code base and paid enterprise code base of Umbraco CMS itself?
Umbraco is open source and will remain open source. So
end of the topic. good answer. Good answer.
I mean, I've obviously I've also tried to address that in the blog post. I mean, we remain open source, and adding neglecting. If we were neglecting the open source, then we would be shooting ourselves in the foot, because all our commercial products, all of them, are on the foundation of the open source.
And I think those products, they get improved and driven forward by the community as well, because that open source ethos is there. And if you take that away, an element of the community disappears as well. And you don't have that inner really valuable feedback loop that you would have had otherwise. So actually keeping the community on side is highly valuable for driving even those commercial products.
And an important point in this is, I mean, I want us to be customer centric, user centric, and being open source. You are only successful in open source if you are customer, user, developer centric, whatever you pick your word. And this is what I mean. Admittedly, no companies in the world claims that they don't want to be customer centric, but it is very difficult to be customer centric. It's very difficult to have this outside in perspective. And by having a community, by being open source, we have tons of people sitting at the desk, at the table, giving the opportunity to participate if they like to. Everything is done transparent through GitHub, request for comments, and so on and so forth. So what has made us successful is not fully, but partly that we are centered around the ones who are using the software. The ones that contributes, I mean, it's based upon real life implementations. It's not something which is done in a lab and presented to the world. This is real life. I mean, fix things in this corner or enhance this and so on and so forth. And that's just a win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation, and that's what brought us to where we are today. And not prioritizing that would be, that would be counterproductive to what we are trying to do.
I think that there's some more questions on this topic which we will loop back to, but you mentioned customer centric there, and one of the questions we had that was asked was, who's Umbraco's target group? Are you trying to go after the epi servers and the Sitecores of the world? Are you trying to target individual freelancers or small agencies? Is there a specific focus there? And in addition to that, Lawrence has asked, is there a kind of a core focus decided so you can help target those specific markets or specific groups?
We have over the years, I wouldn't say necessarily being targeting these groups, because we haven't been proactive on going to market. I mean, that has changed now, but it is important. I mean, it's developers implementing Umbraco, and that will continue to be the case. So we need to have the love and the dedication from developers, regardless of where the developers are working, whether they are solo or small or large. So a continued focus on developers is important. I assume that some of the question here is also around pricing, and I do appreciate that the prices that we can take from a large enterprise client is much higher than any solo developer can afford. We try to balance that out. We try to balance the offerings, so we actually can cater for all these groups. Admittedly, you will never be an enterprise client as a solo. Admittedly, the price on training is relatively more hard-hitting than for solo than a large entity. We try to come around that in numerous ways. We have giveaways on training. We open up for the Umbraco education program, so schools can get people trained or students trained on Umbraco, say by a Gold partner. And I'm sure that if a solo, to use that word, needs a discount, then write to me, and I will make sure that happened. But back to my point before, that HCL or Accenture, I mean, they have the money to pay 1,200 euros per course, and they should. I mean, they should.
It's a tricky one because, of course, I think all of this comes back to, with new investment, with changes, you don't want to alienate who has typically been the core user base of the product and or part of the community. And historically, that's been people who give their time away for free or work for an agency who invest in the community. And those people are the vocal people we're talking about here are those people, the people that give back. Now, I think for the first time in a long time in the Umbraco community, we've spoken about this before as well, we actually have choice, which is great because, okay, Umbraco Deploy, in my eyes, it's too expensive. We wouldn't pay for it. But we would use Umbraco Cloud if that kind of workflow is something we needed. And I'm really excited about the VNext platform for cloud because if it lives up to what it's been described as, it's a no-brainer for hosting an Umbraco site. Equally, if you don't want to do that, you've got Usync Complete, and we've got other options out there in the community. There's free equivalents to Umbraco Forms if your budget doesn't allow for Umbraco Forms. But I think there's choice, there's options, and you have to, as you said, cater for all ends of that market. You have to give an option that's appealing to these enterprises. Chances are a big enterprise might turn their nose up at a product that's $100 versus 10,000 because, well, what are we getting for that $100? It's not really paying for anything. But if 10,000, we've got a support agreement with it, blah blah blah, and people feel like it's a brand that they can trust. It's worth the price tag.
But Callum, they also have a choice, right? They also have a choice, and I think the important part here probably to describe is like we are still hopefully talking about the products which we know already, like Umbraco Cloud, Umbraco Headless, Deploy Forms, and all the licenses on top of that, not the CMS, which is the core base, because there were some discussions about the open source is not free to license. So and a couple of people mentioned that we still have the developers who will use Umbraco, develop on top of that, deploy it on their own environments, their own servers, and that's not going to change, right, Kim?
Will the core open source CMS product always remain free?
I mean, unless you want to pay for it, then I would happy to. But open source, I mean, it comes without a price tag.
Okay, that's probably answers most of the questions we had here, and anyway, that's exactly what I said. What I thought, and I think Karen, we've mentioned the fear and the whole, let's say, the confusion around the users, the developers, and you've started a really interesting poll,
an incredibly unscientific poll. Which Soren made a great point. My wording on this could have been better, but effectively, I was trying to gauge community opinion on how we're feeling about this. And we were talking about this before we went live, that the majority of people are unsure. I'll be honest, the reason I worded it so badly is I was trying to get that won't take this lying down thing in there because I knew we had Kim coming on. But the consensus being people aren't quite sure how to react to this. And I think this is true. I found the news out on Monday a little before it was announced, and my knee-jerk reaction was, what? Oh, okay, stuff's going to change. Not sure I'm happy about this. But I've been in a few calls this week, spoken with Montero as well, and my feelings on it have mellowed a lot. And I think other people will too. And one of the things you've said, Kim, is you've got to walk the talk. I can't remember what you exactly said, but the proof is going to be in what happens in the coming years, right? That you live up to everything you're saying now.
I'm fully aware that making a blog post appearing on MVP Connect, appearing here and in at the community office hours and elsewhere, doesn't in itself convince people that this change doesn't have any negative side effects. I have to walk the talk. I have to quoting Karl Marx. I mean, he said it's not about theory; it's about practice. And I mean, we obviously we have to show that this is not giving a negative change to the ones in the community as well as to clients. I mean, and partners. The point, and this is also mentioned in the blog post, that the acquisition, Montero states that this is not leading to any administrative routines as towards clients, customers, and users, and that's very much true. As I said, I do appreciate that things needs to be seen before one can believe them.
Yeah, I think the majority of the people watching this now that have been asking questions are going to be this vocal, community-focused audience, and I think that's their concern, actually, that those things don't change. My rationalization with all of this has been they are a fund. They're going to buy Umbraco. They're going to want to make some money off it as well. So in turn, they're going to help fatten you up and grow you and get you to the point where you're more valuable and they can make a return on their investment. That's just how the world works. But that's probably not going to impact me and the things that I love about Umbraco. We may see some additional commercial products added, maybe some changes to those commercial offerings. But as you've said, you can't shoot down that core open source CMS. And I think ultimately that's what people care about. And over the past 12 months plus, my confidence in the product itself has grown so much with the Philip coming on board. I think Philip's a fantastic ambassador and defender of the kind of vision of that product. So I think the right people are in place to defend the core product, and the commercial things, they'll happen, and that's okay. And I'm just not going to be bothered by it if it's not affecting me.
That's correct. I agree with that, and I think we have the same feelings. Umbraco grown up, Umbraco has changed, and Umbraco is going to be changing. Kim, when you joined the board as well, it was in the middle of our journey with Umbraco so far. It was also a change. The change was with the first Umbraco Cloud announcements. The fear was also there, right? The fear was when the headless announcement was made and stuff like that. And still, we are here. We are using Umbraco. There are agencies, people across the world. There are headless users who don't know that Umbraco can be installed anywhere. There are also cloud users who are not going to write a code and use Uno or anything like that. So there is a market everywhere.
If you don't want to use headless, don't use headless. It's fine. Yeah. You don't have to use the latest product that Umbraco's brought out. It's okay. Just continue as you've been doing.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people who will learn about Umbraco just from these products, and maybe then turn into enterprise users or enterprise companies who will hire their own teams to work with Umbraco and stuff like that. So that's a vision, I think, from our side, and I don't feel this fear anymore, to be honest. And as I've mentioned before we went live, actions matters, and Kim, you've agreed with that. It's like, we'll see, right? It's in your hands right now to get the most out of it, and I think from both sides, they want the most from Umbraco, and you want the most from them, because they have know-how, they have the journey behind them, and they have also vision in their own vision's eyes. So yeah.
When I started these 5.5 years ago ish, and we brought Anders on board, I mean, we were named the suits, and now the suits would come and ruin.
This was one of the questions. Are you going to rename them? But I think investors nowadays, they wear like polo shirts and stuff, don't they? or golf outfits.
T-shirts.
Yeah, and buy a moon rocket and fly out in the atmosphere. There's no plans on that.
Next Code Garden Bingo Prize.
But no, I don't see
the name suits change.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah. When we mentioned the changes, of course, we probably don't want to skip this topic, because it was combined with the announcement from the Niels side after a while that his job is now done, and he wrote a really great story about how it all started and how it affected so many lives across the community and world. And I was amazed by the amount of feedback, reactions, stories, memories, also related to this story. Of course, you probably, Kim, can tell more about the Niels' absence in the last times and all the story like that. But it all started thanks to him. And I saw Warren's post, a lot of stories on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, that without Niels and this decision about starting Umbraco, making it as a product, open sourcing it, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be doing umbraCoffees as well, and no one would build an Umbraco agency or Umbraco projects, and this 1 million installations won't be there. Umbraco Cloud won't be there, and all the crazy investor story also won't be possible and in place. So yeah, what is your?
You can safely say he'll have changed thousands, if not, as you said earlier, Kim, potentially millions of people's lives, and indirectly or directly.
Yeah. I think as a kind of action and observation from this week, because I was off on Monday. I checked the Twitter on Monday evening and night, and I was some things happened, and then I saw all of these stories, and I love them. I think these moments are also essential and good to give a massive high fives back to Niels, to everyone involved in the product from the beginning. I shared some of my memories as well, because again, all the code gardens, events, friendships, relations, and tours across the world wouldn't be possible if Umbraco wouldn't be on place, right? So big kudos here. And what is your vision, Kim? And what was your kind of reaction to this story?
And I mean, if you hadn't said what you've just said, then I would have said it. I mean, if Niels hadn't founded Umbraco, if he hadn't felt the itch when implementing a sidecar, I think it was, then we wouldn't have been here today. And during the times, I mean, he has done Herculean work, taking risks and chances and stuff like that. Over the years, and that's big kudos to him for that, and the work and the inspiration he has been. I don't think I think also from reading the stories that it can be difficult to find the right words to describe the influence. And I mean, Niels has been working. Obviously, I cannot speak on his behalf. He hasn't been operational in the company. He has been sitting in the board of directors for the last 10, 11 months or something like that, like this on a hiatus. I've said in other occasions, very well deserved after I've been working with Umbraco for so long time, and done what he has done, and I fully respect the decision here of leaving the project. I also do think that that over the last 5 years, what we have tried to do, and I think successfully, is to put more faces on Umbraco. Callum, you mentioned Philip, Bjarke, others have been brought on board, so there are more people representing Umbraco than just one.
This was always the big, I guess, big concern whenever Niels would take. He's taken breaks before, shorter breaks. People were a bit concerned because he's effectively always been the visionary for the product. And you've seen this in other companies. I'm not going to compare Niels to, it won't help his ego or anything if I compare him to other visionaries, Steve Jobs or Elon Musk type people, but they're effectively, the figureheads of companies. They are there driving innovation, but I think ultimately inspiring others as well. And so Niels's job is he's got the product where he feels he wanted it to be. You've got these other people who are equally passionate and can match that and can now take it, another step forward. I think it's a tricky thing knowing when the time is right to let your baby go and give it to someone else and let them take it forward. But it does feel like it probably is the time.
And back to the to what we talked about previously. I mean, the fact that we have we have over the last 15 years reinvented the way we are doing development and innovating the product together with community in several ways. And currently we have, I believe, a strong process in doing so. Lots of dedicated people working on specific areas in the various community teams, and that just, I mean, so we are getting things in outside in and are processing them, and so we have a good MO for continuing this and not being dependent on only one person in that. And that has been, I mean, that has been part not master plan, but I mean, we have seen over the years that we have needed to reinvent the way we are doing things to the sheer volume of projects installs out in the world, sheer number of people working with in and around Umbraco. That I mean it going from a solo project to this size, you need to change in order to stay the same.
And also like people's interests maybe don't change. So Niels's passion for the product, obviously he can dedicate less of his attention. If he's the figurehead of a company, he can dedicate far less of his attention as you grow. And if you've got investors on board, you've got to please them. And if it detracts from where his skills are kind of best placed, then ultimately it's not great for him. And so I know that I've had numerous conversations with Niels in the past 2-3 years where he's said, oh yeah, like I'd kind of like to step back from doing, having to do keynotes at every festival. And we've seen that change where, other people have done it instead. And that's a great thing. And equally, when you were announced, was it 2 years ago now, Kim, as the CEO, it was very much of that reason. Niels isn't the person to run the company. And so that structure has to be in place in order to grow. Umbraco wouldn't have got to where it is probably if that hadn't happened either. So this just feels like a natural progression.
There is a great book.
That was one of the first things Niels said to me, that he didn't want to be the CEO.
Yeah, I think there is a book called The E-Myth in English, and it's exactly about the same topic. Like if you are a doer, if you are a maker of something, and then you are becoming a company owner who makes this, it's not the same level of joy. It's not exactly the same stuff. But I think he also said multiple times that the whole journey make him explore so much, and I think. Appreciation for this journey won't end, because still he grew up this company from a project written in the basement or somewhere. The first pictures shared somewhere when they went open source with the first version, till now, where we talk about investors and visions, roadmaps, and multiple projects and targets and competitors. It's completely a lot of journey.
And again, yeah, I mean, hadn't it been for him, I mean, we wouldn't have been here today. But I also think an important point in this, and also the last this process we have been through leading up to the Montero acquisition, spoken with several private equity funds who doesn't understand open source. And don't believe in open source or things. Open source is, I mean, you don't hold the IP rights. So how can you buy something that is under MIT? And I hope that the fact that this transaction have happened, that it paves the way for future open source projects being taken serious by investors, and the way open source is compared to closed source, I mean, we are so much better. I mean, in many respects. And
we saw it in Microsoft's movements, right? That's what we mentioned, Callum, multiple times. What Microsoft does with open source and how open source tools bringing of course, they're also on different levels, but they shaped the vision that open source is not bad anymore, right? It's not something what is just for free and everyone can just benefit from that.
Yeah, so it's easier to get success when you have a multi-million $1 billion in your pocket doing that than growing up from the bottom as Umbraco has done. But I do hope that we can pave the way pave the way. And I've spent some time with some of the ones that we didn't go with, and taking the time to explain why open source is such a magic thing. And I do hope that this can help future open source projects moving forward.
So Kim, what's next then? What are the nearest plans? What are the visions and the closest steps to be made from your perspective?
We will move Code Garden to IKEA.
That's what we thought. And Warren just asked the question exactly related to this topic. So can we expect you to dress up like Donald Trump at bingo? Or anytime soon?
What Warren doesn't know is that I am Donald Trump.
Mystery solved. We waited till the end of this episode to reveal that.
Just like Niels was lowered down from the ceiling on a winch dressed as Donald, we need you in your lying position, like winched down onto the stage.
Yeah.
I believe this was the part of the agreement. I believe, right? The level of craziness was transferred onto the existing CEO and new investors. Yeah, we don't want to lose the level of craziness, of course.
Montero are in for a treat the first time they go to Code Garden and see any of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And as Niels described in his blog, the smiling faces of people, and it's a magical.
It's a value. It's a value added to the product. I believe again. I mention it all the time when I meet people. It's like it's all about people, not technology. And Umbraco is behind all of the faces of people who are happy from using it. And Kim, you've mentioned it today and yesterday as well. Is like this happiness is the destination and the target. And product can just benefit from it. So from the community perspective, if we can say, we don't want to change as well, right? So if it's going to stay the same and we can just achieve more thanks to this process, win-win for all of us here.
This is not about tech. This is not about commercialization. This is about shared beliefs and how we execute the beliefs we have. And again, I do think that the way we are doing things commercially, community product-wise, makes a difference for a lot of people out there, and we want to continue by making a positive difference for people.
Before we wrap up, there's one question here from Jason, which I think is a very good one, and it's: should we expect to see Montero around in the community? And I know you've addressed this a few times elsewhere as well, but as a broader question, what's Montero's day-to-day involvement?
Montero will work through the board. They will not move. HQ will not move to Sweden, nor will they move to Odense. We will continue the work from anywhere that we introduced last fall. I would love. I would love for Montero to come and visit events. Obviously Code Garden, but also festivals where it makes sense. I know that they, in disguise, participated in Code Garden this year. Not with a shout out saying we are private equity or growth investor. And I've heard super feedback from that. So you will most likely get a chance to meet them, talk to them, speak with them if you like to. and hear where they come from and what they think around these.
Very good.
Nice. Yeah, so that's great summary, and yeah, we are just looking forward more right now to all of these events, all of the crazy stories and new announcements from your side, and yeah, we as usual will be doing and highlighting all of them here, and yeah, trying to catch up everything what's happening within the community, which is not going to change, and yeah, bring more news from us. And Kim, massive thank you for joining us today, having these questions answered. And you've mentioned it multiple times and everywhere where it's possible. You are open for feedback, you're open for questions. Everyone can reach you. You are very active on Twitter as well recently, and various other social medias. Everyone can reach you and ask you some questions and share their concerns, right?
Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to enter into a dialogue and answer any questions that arise. And yeah, so don't be shy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all. Of course, we'll share a lot of the links with a bunch of links which we couldn't discuss during the time, but they will be on our YouTube channel. As usual, like, subscribe, share. If you have someone who can benefit and who wants to learn more about this story and see and listen to the Kim answering these questions today, share it with them. Hopefully, we'll all get used to the new vision and situation in the Umbraco family. And as usual, we'll see each other on the next Friday to discuss the next bunch of amazing news across the community.
Indeed.
So thanks, Kim. Congrats again on this movement ahead. Thanks everyone for being with us today, and have a lovely rest of the day and the weekend up front. So see you next Friday.